Richard Wellington hurled Elena across the hospital floor like garbage. Her skull cracked against the tiles. Blood splattered from her lip. The precious bottle shattered, dark liquid pooling beneath the ICU door. "Murderer!" Richard stomped on her fingers, reaching for the broken glass. "You poisoned my son!" Elena screamed through blood and tears. "He's dying! Look at him! Look!" Through the glass, Marcus Wellington convulsed violently. Monitors shrieked. His heart rate plummeted. 60, 40, 20, flatline. "No!" Richard spun toward his son's lifeless body. Elena crawled through broken glass, clutching the last drops of liquid in her bleeding palm. She had 30 seconds to bring him back, or watch a billionaire's son die in front of her eyes. Before we continue, tell us where you're watching from, and drop your city in the comments. Subscribe and stay until the end, because this story will change everything you believe about miracles, about healing, and about the power of one person to change everything. Dr. Nathan Hayes had been awake for 41 hours straight. His hands trembled as he reviewed Marcus Wellington's test results for the 7th time. His coffee had gone cold 3 hours ago. His eyes burned from staring at screens filled with numbers that made no sense. "This is impossible," he muttered. Sarah Chen, his head nurse, stood beside him. She had worked with Nathan for 15 years. She had never seen him this shaken. "The results are accurate," she said quietly. "I've run them 4 times myself." Nathan threw the folder onto his desk. A healthy 24-year-old man doesn't just start dying for no reason. There has to be a cause, a virus, a toxin, something. "We've tested for everything, twice." "Then test again." Sarah flinched at his tone. Nathan immediately regretted it. "I'm sorry." He pressed his palms against his eyes. "I haven't slept, and Wellington has been threatening to destroy my career every hour on the hour. He's scared. He's a monster." Sarah didn't argue. They both knew what Richard Wellington was capable of. Nathan's pager buzzed. He looked at the message, and his blood ran cold. "His vitals are crashing again. Get to the ICU. Now!" They ran. The ICU was chaos when they arrived. Nurses shouted commands. Machines screamed warnings. Marcus Wellington's body thrashed against the restraints as his heart rate spiked wildly. "What happened?" Nathan demanded, pushing through to the bedside. "He was stable 5 minutes ago," a junior doctor stammered. "Then his readings just went crazy." Nathan grabbed Marcus's wrist, feeling for a pulse. It was there, but erratic. Racing one moment, nearly stopping the next. "Push another round of stabilizers," Nathan ordered, "and get me a crash cart ready. We've already given him 3 rounds in the last hour." "Then give him a 4th. Marcus's eyes flew open. Nathan stumbled backward in shock. The young man's gaze was wild, unfocused, seeing something that wasn't in the room. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. His hands clawed at the air like he was fighting an invisible enemy. Then, just as suddenly, his body went limp. The monitors flatlined. "No, no, no!" Nathan grabbed the defibrillator paddles. "Charging to 200. Clear." He pressed the paddles to Marcus's chest. The body jerked. The monitors stayed flat. "Charging to 300. Clear." Another jolt. Another flat line. "Come on." Nathan's voice cracked. "Don't you dare die on me." Sarah grabbed his arm. "Dr. Hayes, look." The heart monitor blipped, once, twice, then settled into a weak but steady rhythm. Marcus was alive, barely. Nathan's legs nearly gave out. He braced himself against the bed, fighting to control his breathing. "What the hell is happening to this man?" he whispered. Nobody answered, because nobody knew that. Richard Wellington burst into the ICU 17 minutes later. He had been in a meeting with his lawyers, discussing the hospital's liability if Marcus died. The call from Dr. Hayes had sent him sprinting through the corridors like a man possessed. "Where is he?" Richard shoved past a nurse. "Where is my son?" Nathan stepped into his path. "Mr. Wellington, he's stable for now." Stable, I just got a message saying his heart stopped. It did. We revived him. Richard's face went white. For a moment, Nathan thought the billionaire might collapse. Then the rage returned. You told me 24 hours, Richard snarled. You told me you had time to figure this out. We're doing everything we can. Everything you can. My son just died on your table, and you brought him back with jumper cables. Richard grabbed Nathan by the collar of his white coat. I want answers, doctor. Real answers. Not excuses. Nathan didn't flinch. He had faced angry family members before, but none quite like this. The truth, Mr. Wellington, is that we don't know what's killing your son. We've run every test, consulted every specialist, and we are no closer to a diagnosis than we were 2 days ago. Richard released him slowly. His hands were shaking. Then find someone who can figure it out. We've contacted experts around the world. 3 specialists from Johns Hopkins are flying in tonight. A neurologist from Germany, an immunologist from Tokyo. I don't care if you have to drag doctors out of their graves. Fix my son. Nathan straightened his coat. There's something else you should know. What? There's a woman downstairs. She's been waiting in the lobby for 3 hours. She claims she knows what's wrong with Marcus. Richard's eyes narrowed. Who is she? I don't know. Security has been trying to remove her, but she refuses to leave. She says... Nathan hesitated. She says what? She says the illness isn't coming from his body. She says it's coming from his soul. Richard stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was a harsh, ugly sound. His soul. Richard shook his head. My son is dying from a spiritual illness. That's what you're telling me. I'm telling you what she claims. I make no judgments about its validity. Then let me make one for you. Richard's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. My son is dying from a real disease with a real cause, and some crazy woman from the street is not going to waltz in here with crystals and prayers and pretend she can fix what your fancy machines cannot. I understand, sir. I'll have security remove her. No. Richard turned toward the door. I'll handle her myself. Elena had been sitting in the hospital lobby for 4 hours and 23 minutes. Her back ached from the hard plastic chair. Her stomach growled with hunger she couldn't afford to feed. 3 different security guards had threatened to arrest her. 2 nurses had offered her money to leave. She hadn't moved, because every time she closed her eyes, she saw him. Marcus Wellington collapsing on the sidewalk 4 days ago, his eyes rolling back, his body crumpling like a puppet with cut strings. The life draining out of him so fast she could almost see it leaving. She had tried to help him then. His bodyguards had shoved her into the gutter. Get away from him, you filthy beggar! Don't touch him with your dirty hands. Someone call the police. This woman attacked Mr. Wellington. They had loaded Marcus into a black SUV and disappeared into traffic, leaving Elena sprawled on the concrete with skinned palms and a racing heart. But she couldn't forget what she had felt. That moment when her hand touched his. The coldness that shot through her fingers. The terrible certainty that something was pulling him away from the world of the living. She had told her grandmother everything that night. Rosa Martinez had listened without interruption. Her wrinkled face showed no surprise. Her dark eyes held knowledge that went back centuries. You felt the spirit sickness, Rosa had said. What is that, abuela? There are diseases that doctors cannot see, mija. Diseases that do not come from germs or poisons or broken genes. They come from the soul itself. How? Rosa had leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. When a person carries too much pain, too much pressure, too much weight that they cannot release, the spirit begins to give up. It decides that living is too hard, and when the spirit decides to leave, the body follows. Elena had felt ice in her veins. Can it be healed? Rosa had been quiet for a long time. Then she had risen slowly from her chair and shuffled to the old wooden chest in the corner of their cramped apartment. the chest Elena had never been allowed to open. "There is one remedy," Rosa had said, lifting the lid. "I made it 40 years ago when I was still a young curandera in Mexico. It is meant for moments exactly like this." She had pulled out a small bottle filled with dark liquid that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. "What does it do?" Elena had asked. "It wakes the spirit, reminds it why it chose to be born, why it chose to live." Rosa had pressed the bottle into Elena's hands. "But understand this, mija. The remedy can open the door. Only the person can choose to walk through it. And if they don't choose—" Rosa's eyes had grown sad. "Then it was their time, and nothing in this world could have changed it." Elena had clutched the bottle all night, feeling its strange warmth against her skin, and in the morning she had walked to Manhattan Presbyterian Hospital, now watching yet another security guard approach her with an annoyed expression. Elena wondered if her grandmother's remedy would ever get the chance to work. "Ma'am, I've already asked you 3 times to leave. And I've told you 3 times that I'm not leaving until I see Marcus Wellington." "That's not going to happen." "Then I'll wait until it does." The guard sighed heavily. "Look, lady, I don't know what your angle is. Maybe you're a reporter. Maybe you're crazy. Maybe you think you can sue the Wellington family for something, but you're not getting anywhere near that patient." Elena looked him straight in the eyes. "What's your name?" The guard blinked, surprised by the question. "James, why?" "James, let me ask you something. Do you have children?" "I don't see how that's relevant." "Do you—" James shifted uncomfortably. "2. A boy and a girl." "If one of them was dying," Elena said quietly, "and the doctors couldn't help, and some stranger showed up claiming they knew how to save them, what would you do?" James opened his mouth to respond, then closed it again. "Would you throw that stranger out?" Elena continued. "Or would you at least listen to what they had to say? That's different." "Why?" "Because I'm poor. Because I don't have a medical degree. Because I showed up in worn clothes instead of a white coat." James looked away. Elena could see the conflict in his face. "I felt him dying," she said. 4 days ago when he collapsed. I touched his hand, and I felt his soul leaving his body. I know that sounds crazy. I know you probably think I belong in a psychiatric ward, but I also know that your doctors have no idea what's killing him. And I do." James was quiet for a long moment. Then footsteps echoed across the lobby. Elena looked up and felt her heart stop. Richard Wellington was walking toward her. His face was a mask of cold fury. His eyes burned with the kind of rage that destroys everything it touches. Every person in the lobby stepped aside as he passed, as if his anger was a physical force that could knock them down. He stopped directly in front of Elena. "Stand up," he said. Elena stood. They faced each other in the middle of the lobby, the billionaire and the nobody, the man who owned half the city and the girl who couldn't afford dinner. "You're the one who claims you can save my son." It wasn't a question. "Yes." "Based on what magic witchcraft? Some folk remedy you bought from a street vendor. Based on knowledge that's been passed down in my family for generations. Based on understanding that there are some things medicine can't explain." Richard laughed coldly. "Knowledge? Understanding? Do you know how many charlatans have walked through these doors claiming they could cure the incurable? Do you know how many desperate families have been robbed by people exactly like you? I'm not asking for money. Then what do you want? 5 minutes with your son." Richard's eyes narrowed. 5 minutes to do what? Elena pulled the bottle from her bag. The dark liquid caught the fluorescent lights, shimmering like it contained captured starlight. "This is a remedy my grandmother created. It's meant to wake the spirit when it starts to give up. 1 application. That's all I need." Richard stared at the bottle like she was holding a loaded gun. "You expect me to let some stranger pour an unknown substance on my dying son. I expect you to recognize that you're out of options." "I am never out of options." "Really?" Elena held his gaze. Then why is your son still dying? The words hit Richard like a physical blow. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes, something that looked almost like fear. Then the mask slammed back into place. Get out of my hospital! Mr. Wellington. I said get out. Richard grabbed her arm and started dragging her toward the door. Security, remove this woman immediately. Elena didn't fight him. She knew it was pointless. But as the guards approached to take her away, she called out one last time. 24 hours, Mr. Wellington. That's what the doctors gave him, wasn't it? 24 hours to live? Richard froze. That was yesterday. Elena continued. Which means he has maybe 12 hours left, maybe less. Your specialist from Johns Hopkins won't arrive in time. Your experts from Germany and Japan won't arrive in time. By the time they land, your son will already be dead. Richard's grip on her arm tightened painfully. But I'm here now, Elena said. And I'm offering you the one thing none of those experts can offer. A chance. A chance based on what superstition? A chance based on the fact that I have nothing to gain from lying to you. A chance based on the fact that I've spent 4 days trying to reach your son because something inside me won't let me walk away. A chance based on the fact that your doctors have tried everything and failed, and I haven't tried anything yet. Richard's jaw clenched. His eyes burned into hers. If you're wrong, he said slowly, if my son dies because of something you did, I will destroy you. I will use every resource at my disposal to make sure you spend the rest of your life rotting in prison. Do you understand me? I understand. And you still want to try? I still want to try. Richard released her arm. He stood there for a long moment, staring at her like he was trying to see inside her skull. Then he turned to the security guards. Let her through. James gaped at him. Sir, I said, let her through. Richard's voice was deadly quiet. She's coming upstairs with me. The elevator ride to the ICU was silent. Elena stood in the corner clutching her bag, trying to control her breathing. Richard stood at the opposite end, his back ramrod straight, his eyes fixed on the ascending numbers above the door. Neither of them spoke. The doors opened onto controlled chaos. Nurses rushed past with IV bags and syringes. Monitors beeped urgent warnings. Somewhere nearby, a doctor shouted orders that were immediately followed by running footsteps. And in the center of it all, visible through the glass walls of his private room, lay Marcus Wellington. Elena's breath caught in her throat. He looked worse than she remembered. His skin had taken on a grayish tint that she recognized from her grandmother's stories, the color of someone standing at the threshold between worlds. Dr. Hayes! Richard barked. Nathan appeared from a nearby station, his face haggard with exhaustion. Mr. Wellington, and this must be Elena Martinez, Richard said flatly. She claims she can help Marcus. Nathan's expression shifted from exhaustion to alarm. Sir, I really don't think... I didn't ask what you think. I asked you to let her try. Mr. Wellington, allowing an unlicensed individual to administer unknown substances to a critical patient violates every protocol we have. My son just flatlined on your table 20 minutes ago. Your protocols aren't working. Nathan opened his mouth to argue, then closed it again. Richard turned to Elena. You have 5 minutes. I'll be watching the entire time. If his condition worsens by even 1 degree, I'm pulling you out and calling the police. Elena nodded. I understand. Then go. Elena walked into the ICU room. Her footsteps seemed impossibly loud against the tile floor. The beeping of the monitors filled her ears like a countdown. She stopped at Marcus's bedside and looked down at him. Up close, he was beautiful, even dying, even gray and hollow. There was something about his face that made her heart ache. High cheekbones, full lips, dark hair that fell across his forehead. But it was more than physical beauty that drew her. She could feel him. His spirit flickering like a candle flame in a hurricane. Weak, fading, but still fighting. He hadn't given up yet. "Marcus?" She leaned close to his ear. "My name is Elena. I don't know if you can hear me, but I need you to listen." No response. She hadn't expected one. "You're dying. The doctors don't know why, but I do. Something inside you has decided it's time to let go. Something inside you has given up on living." She opened the bottle. The scent that rose from it was like nothing she could describe. Earth and rain and growing things. Life itself distilled into liquid form. But here's the thing, Marcus. You have a choice. You can let go. You can slip away into whatever comes next. Or you can fight. You can choose to stay. She dipped her fingers into the liquid. It was warm against her skin, almost hot. "I'm going to give you a chance. That's all I can do. Give you a chance, and pray that you take it." She touched his forehead, drawing a symbol that her grandmother had taught her. A symbol of awakening. A symbol of return. The monitors flickered. "What was that?" Nathan called from outside the room. "It's supposed to happen," Elena said, not taking her eyes off Marcus. "His body is responding." She moved her hand to his chest, placing her palm directly over his heart. She could feel it beating beneath her fingers. Weak, erratic, but still beating. "Come back," she whispered. "Come back." The monitors flickered again. This time, alarms began to sound. "His heart rate is spiking." Nathan pushed into the room. "We need to stop this now." "No." Elena grabbed Marcus's hand with her free palm. "This is part of the process. His spirit is waking up. He's going into cardiac arrest." Richard appeared at the doorway, his face twisted with terror. "What did you do to him?" "I'm saving him, but you have to let me finish." Marcus's body began to convulse. His back arched off the bed. His eyes flew open, wild and unseeing. And Elena made a decision. She lifted the bottle and poured every drop of the remaining liquid onto Marcus's chest. The effect was instantaneous. Marcus screamed. Not a weak, dying sound. A scream of pure primal awakening. His body jackknifed upward. His hands clawed at the air. His eyes rolled back in his head. And then, silence. Complete, absolute silence. Even the monitors stopped beeping. Elena felt her heart stop. She had killed him. Oh God, she had killed him. Her grandmother's remedy hadn't worked. She had poured it on him, and it had stopped his heart completely. "No," she breathed. "No, no, no, no." Beep. A single sound from the monitor. Beep. Another one. Beep. 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 A steady rhythm. Stronger than before. Healthier than before. Marcus's eyes opened. Not wild this time. Clear, focused, present. He turned his head and looked directly at Elena. "Who?" His voice was rusty from days of disuse. "Who are you?" Elena burst into tears. "My name is Elena, and I think I just saved your life." Marcus stared at her for a long moment. Then his gaze shifted to the room around him. The machines. The wires. His father standing frozen in the doorway. "Dad," his voice cracked. "What's happening? Why am I in a hospital?" Richard crossed the room in 2 strides and pulled his son into his arms. The man who had threatened doctors, who had terrorized staff, who had grabbed Elena by the throat and called her trash, now held his son and wept like a child. "You're alive," Richard choked out. "Oh God, Marcus. You're alive." "I don't understand." Marcus's voice was muffled against his father's shoulder. "What happened to me?" "You were dying." Richard pulled back, gripping his son's face in both hands. "You collapsed 4 days ago. The doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong. They said you had 24 hours left." Marcus's eyes widened. 4 days I've been here for 4 days." "Yes. And you would have died tonight if it weren't for her." Richard turned to look at Elena. She stood at the foot of the bed, tears streaming down her face, the empty bottle still clutched in her trembling hand. "She saved you," Richard said. "This girl I tried to throw out of my hospital, this girl I called trash." His voice broke. "She saved my son." Marcus looked at Elena, really looked at her, and something passed between them. Something Elena couldn't name, something that felt like recognition. "Thank you," Marcus whispered. Elena wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "You did the hard part. You chose to stay." "I don't remember choosing anything. Your spirit remembered. That's what matters." "Doctor." Hayes stepped forward, his face pale with shock. This is medically impossible. His readings were critical 20 minutes ago. Now they're almost normal." "Not impossible," Elena said quietly. "Just unexplainable." Nathan stared at the monitors, then at Marcus, then at the empty bottle in Elena's hand. "What was in that?" he demanded. "Old knowledge, the kind that doesn't come from textbooks. We need to analyze it, run tests, figure out what compounds cause this reaction." Elena shook her head. "The bottle is empty, and there isn't any more. Your grandmother must have the recipe. We could recreate it, study it, develop treatments." "My grandmother died 3 months ago." The words fell into silence. Nathan opened his mouth, then closed it again. There was nothing to say. Richard stepped toward Elena slowly. His entire demeanor had changed. The rage was gone. The arrogance was gone. In its place was something that looked almost like humility. "I owe you an apology," he said. "I treated you terribly. I said unforgivable things. You were scared. Fear makes people cruel. That's not an excuse." "No, but it is an explanation." Richard nodded slowly. "What can I do? How can I possibly repay you for saving my son's life?" Elena looked at Marcus, then back at Richard. "You don't owe me anything. I didn't do this for a reward." "Then why would you spend 4 days trying to save a stranger?" Elena was quiet for a moment. "Because my grandmother always told me that gifts are meant to be shared. She gave me knowledge that could save lives. If I had walked away and let your son die, that knowledge would have meant nothing." Richard stared at her. In his 53 years of life, he had met thousands of people. Business partners, politicians, celebrities, world leaders. None of them had ever confused him the way this young woman did. She had nothing. No money, no power, no connections. And yet she had just accomplished something that all his billions couldn't buy. "At least stay," Richard said. "Until Marcus is fully recovered. I'll have a room prepared for you. Anything you need." Elena hesitated. Every instinct told her to leave, to go back to her grandmother's empty apartment and her simple life, and pretend this had never happened. But Marcus was looking at her, and something in his eyes made her stay. "Okay," she said. "I'll stay, for now." Marcus smiled weakly. "Good. Because I have about 1,000 questions for you." "They'll have to wait. You need to rest." "I've been resting for 4 days, apparently." "Dying isn't the same as resting." Marcus laughed. It was a small sound, barely more than a breath, but it was genuine. And in that moment, Elena felt something shift. Something that told her saving Marcus Wellington's life was only the beginning. The real story was just getting started. 3 hours later, Marcus was sitting up in bed eating chicken broth while Elena answered his questions. "So you're telling me my soul was trying to leave my body?" "That's a simplified version, but yes. And this liquid your grandmother made somehow convinced my soul to stay. It opened a door. You walked through it." Marcus shook his head slowly. "I don't remember any door. I don't remember anything after collapsing, just darkness. And then I woke up and you were standing there. The darkness is what I'm talking about. Your spirit was in between living and dying. The remedy helped pull you back to the living side. How is that possible? Elena smiled sadly. My grandmother used to say that the spirit and the body are connected by invisible threads. When one weakens, the other follows. But if you can strengthen the spirit, the body heals itself. That sounds like something from a fairy tale. Most fairy tales come from truth that people forgot how to see. Marcus studied her face. She was different from any woman he had ever met. His world was full of heiresses and socialites women who judged their worth by their appearance and their bank accounts. Elena looked like she hadn't eaten properly in weeks. Her clothes were worn thin. Her hands were calloused from hard work. But there was something in her eyes, a depth, a knowing, a strength that had nothing to do with money or power. Tell me about your grandmother, Marcus said. Elena's expression softened. Her name was Rosa. She was a curandera in Mexico before she came to America. A healer. People traveled for miles to see her. What kinds of things did she heal? Everything. Physical illness, emotional pain, spiritual wounds. She believed that all sickness comes from imbalance. When the body, mind, and spirit fall out of harmony, disease follows. And she taught you all of this? She tried. I was her only student, her only family. Elena looked down at her hands. She died 3 months ago. I've been trying to continue her work, but it's hard. People don't believe in this kind of healing anymore. Why not? Because it can't be measured, can't be put in a bottle and sold for profit, can't be explained in scientific terms. Elena met his eyes. Your doctors ran every test they could think of, found nothing, because they were looking for the wrong thing. And you knew what to look for. I knew what to feel for. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. His whole life he had been taught that success meant numbers and deals and strategic advantages. His father had raised him to see the world as a chessboard where only the powerful survived. And now a penniless girl from the Bronx had saved his life with a bottle of liquid and a prayer. Everything he thought he knew felt like a lie. Elena? Yes. Why me, out of everyone in this city who might be sick or dying? Why did you fight so hard to save me? Elena didn't answer right away. She seemed to be considering the question carefully. When you collapsed on the street 4 days ago, I felt something. A connection. Like an invisible thread pulling me toward you. That sounds crazy. I know. So you spent 4 days trying to break into a hospital to help a total stranger because of a feeling? Yes. Marcus shook his head in disbelief. You could have been arrested. My father's security team nearly broke your arm, and you kept coming back anyway. Some things are worth the risk. Like saving a rich man's son you've never met. Like following the path you know you're supposed to walk even when it doesn't make sense. Marcus felt something shift in his chest. Something that had nothing to do with his medical condition. You're remarkable, he said softly. Do you know that? Elena's cheeks flushed. I'm just a girl who listens to her grandmother's teachings. You're much more than that. Their eyes met, and for a moment the hospital room fell away. The machines faded. The fluorescent lights dimmed. There was only Marcus and Elena looking at each other across a distance that had nothing to do with physical space. Then the door burst open. Richard strode in, followed by a tall man in an expensive suit who radiated corporate authority. Marcus, you're looking better already. Richard's voice was warm, but his eyes were calculating. There's someone I want you to meet. David Morrison, my chief advisor. He flew in from Chicago as soon as he heard you were recovering. David stepped forward with a practiced smile. Marcus, thank God you're okay. Your father was beside himself with worry. I'm sure he was. Marcus didn't return the smile. He had never liked David. The man was everything wrong with his father's world wrapped in a $5,000 suit. David's gaze slid to Elena. His smile didn't waver, but something flickered in his eyes. And who is this? Elena Martinez. Richard's voice carried a strange note of respect. She's the one who saved Marcus's life. David's eyebrows rose. Really? And how exactly did she do that? It's complicated, Marcus said quickly. She's a healer. A healer? David's tone dripped with condescension. How fascinating. And what medical school did you attend, Miss Martinez? I didn't. No formal training at all. My grandmother taught me. David nodded slowly, his smile never wavering. I see. Well, regardless of the method, we're all grateful that Marcus is recovering. He turned to Richard. May I have a word with you privately? There are some matters we need to discuss. Richard glanced at Marcus, then nodded. Of course. We'll be right back. They stepped into the hallway, closing the door behind them. Marcus looked at Elena. I don't trust him. Your father's advisor. He's been whispering in my father's ear for years. Every decision my father makes, David Morrison is behind it. Marcus's jaw tightened. And the way he looked at you. What about it? Like he was calculating your threat level. Elena felt a chill run down her spine, but she forced herself to stay calm. I'm not a threat to anyone. You disrupted their perfect system. You succeeded where all their money and power failed. Marcus reached out and took her hand. In David Morrison's world, that makes you the most dangerous person in this building. Elena looked down at their joined hands. His grip was warm and surprisingly strong for someone who had nearly died. Should I be worried? Maybe. Marcus's eyes were serious. But I won't let anything happen to you. I promise. Outside in the hallway, Richard and David spoke in hushed, urgent tones. This is a problem, David said. How is my son's recovery a problem? Not his recovery. Her. David nodded toward the door. Richard, think about what just happened. Your doctors tried everything for 4 days and failed. A homeless girl walks in off the street with a bottle of mystery liquid and succeeds. How do you think that story is going to play in the media? Richard's eyes narrowed. I don't care about the media. You should. Wellington Industries stock dropped 3% when word got out that Marcus was critical. If it gets out that some faith healer saved him after modern medicine failed. David shook his head. We're looking at a public relations nightmare. Investors questioning our judgment. Board members demanding answers. My son is alive, David. Nothing else matters. I understand that. I do. But we need to manage this situation carefully. David lowered his voice. We need to control the narrative. What are you suggesting? Pay her off. Give her enough money to keep quiet and disappear. Make sure no one ever knows how Marcus really recovered. Richard was silent for a long moment. Once he would have agreed without hesitation. Once protecting the Wellington image would have been his first priority. But he kept seeing Elena's face when she refused his money. I didn't do this for a reward. No, Richard said finally. I won't do that. David's expression flickered. Richard, I said no. That girl saved my son's life when I was ready to throw her out on the street. I'm not going to repay her kindness with betrayal. This isn't about kindness. This is about business. Then maybe I need to rethink my priorities. Richard turned to face his advisor directly. For 20 years I've put business first, money first, power first. And where did it get me? Watching my only son die while I wrote checks that couldn't save him. You're emotional right now. You're not thinking clearly. No, David. For the first time in years I'm thinking clearly. Richard's voice hardened. Elena Martinez stays. And if you try to push her out, you'll find yourself looking for a new employer. David's mask of friendliness finally cracked. Underneath was something cold and calculating. You're making a mistake, Richard. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. Richard turned and walked back into his son's room. David Morrison stood alone in the hallway, his jaw tight with anger. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Midnight came and went. The hospital quieted. Visitors left. Hallways emptied. Only the skeleton nightstaff remained moving through the corridors like ghosts. Elena sat in a chair beside Marcus's bed watching him sleep. His breathing was deep and steady now. His color had returned to normal. The monitors showed strong, healthy readings. By all medical standards, he was going to be fine. But Elena couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. A shadow at the edge of her vision that she couldn't quite see. A whisper in the back of her mind that she couldn't quite hear. Her grandmother had always told her to trust her instincts. The knowing Rosa had called it. The ability to sense things before they happened. Right now, Elena's knowing was screaming at her. You should rest. She jumped at Marcus's voice. He was awake, watching her with those deep brown eyes. I thought you were asleep. I was. Then I felt you watching me. He smiled slightly. It's okay. I don't mind. You need to recover. Sleep is important. So is not being alone. Marcus shifted, wincing slightly. Stay, please. Elena hesitated. Then she nodded and settled back into her chair. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Outside the window, the city lights sparkled like earthbound stars. Can I ask you something personal? Marcus said. Maybe. Your grandmother. You said she died 3 months ago. What happened? Elena's throat tightened. She hadn't talked about Rosa's death with anyone. Hadn't let herself grieve properly. There hadn't been time. Cancer, she said finally. By the time they caught it, there was nothing they could do. A healer dying from cancer. That seems cruel. My grandmother used to say that everyone has their time. Even healers can't cheat death forever. Elena's voice grew soft. She wasn't afraid. She knew exactly when she was going to go. Planned everything. Taught me her final lessons. Made me promise to continue her work. And that's why you came for me. Partly, but there was something else too. What? Elena looked at him. Really looked at him. The man behind the money. The soul behind the name. When I touched you on the street that day, I felt something I'd only felt once before. When my grandmother was dying. Marcus's expression shifted. What did you feel? Someone standing at a crossroads. Someone who had to choose whether to stay or go. Elena leaned forward. But with my grandmother, she had already made her choice. She was ready to leave. With you. She paused. With you, I felt someone fighting. Someone who wanted to live but didn't know how. Marcus was quiet for a long time. You're not wrong, he finally said. I've been fighting for years, against my father's expectations, against a life I didn't choose, against becoming someone I don't want to be. He closed his eyes. Sometimes I wondered if dying would be easier than living in that world. Elena felt her heart break a little. Is that why your spirit was leaving? I don't know, maybe. Marcus opened his eyes. But when I woke up and saw you standing there, something changed. I felt like I had been given another chance. A chance to live differently. And will you live differently? Marcus reached for her hand. His grip was warm and certain. I want to try. But I don't know if I can do it alone. Elena looked at their joined hands. At the contrast between his expensive hospital bracelet and her calloused fingers. They came from different worlds. Everything about their lives should keep them apart. But something stronger kept pulling them together. You won't be alone, she heard herself say. I'll help you, whatever you need. Marcus smiled. And for the first time since she had met him, it reached his eyes. Thank you, Elena. Don't thank me yet. She squeezed his hand. We still have a long way to go. Outside the room in the shadows of the hallway, David Morrison stood watching through the window. His phone was pressed to his ear. We have a problem, he said quietly. The girl is still here, and it looks like she's not going anywhere. He listened to the voice on the other end. I understand. I'll handle it. He ended the call and slipped away into the darkness. The real battle was just beginning. David Morrison waited until 3 a.m. to make his move. The hospital corridors were empty. The night staff had retreated to their stations. Richard had finally gone home to shower and change, leaving Marcus under the watchful eye of Dr. Hayes, and Elena had fallen asleep in the chair beside Marcus's bed. David stood outside the room watching her through the glass. Such a small thing, he thought. Such an insignificant creature. And yet she had managed to do what billions of dollars could not. That made her dangerous. His phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and answered immediately. "It's done," the voice on the other end said. "We found everything. And she's nobody. Lives in a one-room apartment in the South Bronx. No family except a grandmother who died 3 months ago. No bank account. No credit history. No connections." David smiled coldly. "Perfect. What about the substance she used?" "We recovered fragments of the bottle from the medical waste. Our lab is analyzing it now." "How long until we have results?" 48 hours, maybe less." "Good. Keep me informed." David ended the call and slipped the phone back into his pocket. He took one last look at Elena sleeping peacefully, completely unaware of the storm gathering around her. "Enjoy your rest," he thought. "It won't last long." He turned and walked away into the darkness. 6 hours later, Elena woke to the sound of arguing voices. She bolted upright in her chair, disoriented. Morning light streamed through the window. Marcus was awake, sitting up in bed, his face tight with anger. And standing at the foot of his bed was a woman Elena had never seen before. She was beautiful in a cold, polished way. Designer clothes, perfect makeup, blonde hair pulled back in an elegant twist. Everything about her screamed money and privilege. "I don't care what you think, Victoria," Marcus was saying. "I'm not discussing this with you." "You almost died, Marcus." The woman's voice was sharp. "And now, I find out some homeless girl saved your life with voodoo magic. Do you have any idea how insane that sounds?" "It wasn't voodoo, and she's not homeless." "Oh, please." Victoria's eyes flicked to Elena with undisguised contempt. "Look at her. She probably saw an opportunity and took it. Save the rich boy, collect the reward." Elena felt her face flush with anger. She stood up slowly. "I didn't ask for any reward." Victoria turned to face her fully. "I wasn't talking to you. You were talking about me." "That's close enough." For a moment, the two women stared at each other. Elena had faced down gang members and drug dealers in her neighborhood. She wasn't going to be intimidated by a rich woman in designer heels. "Who are you?" Elena asked. Victoria's smile was like ice. "I'm Victoria Hamilton, Marcus's fiancée." The word hit Elena like a punch to the stomach. Fiancé. Marcus had a fiancé. She looked at Marcus, searching for denial, but his expression told her everything she needed to know. "Elena," Marcus said quickly, "it's not what you think. You're engaged." Her voice came out flat. "What else is there to think? It's complicated." "It's really not," Victoria cut in smoothly. "Marcus and I have been together for 3 years. Our engagement was announced 6 months ago. The wedding is scheduled for next spring." She placed a possessive hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Whatever happened between you two last night, it's over now." "Nothing happened between us," Elena said. "Then why are you still here?" Elena didn't have an answer. Because the truth was, she didn't know why she was still here. She had saved Marcus's life. Her job was done. There was no reason to stay. Except that leaving felt wrong. "I think you should go," Victoria said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "You've done your good deed. Now let the family handle things." Marcus grabbed Victoria's arm. "Don't speak to her like that." "I'm speaking the truth. She doesn't belong here, Marcus. Look at her. Look at this place. This is a private hospital. She's probably never been in a building this nice in her entire life." "That's enough." "Is it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've lost your mind. You almost died, and now you're defending some street girl who probably can't even read." Elena felt something snap inside her. "I can read just fine," she said quietly. I can also see clearly. And what I see is a woman so insecure that she has to tear down others to feel important. Victoria's face went red. How dare you? How dare you? Elena stepped closer. I spent 4 days trying to save your fiancé's life while you were probably getting your nails done. I was thrown out, threatened, and almost arrested. But I kept coming back because I knew he was going to die if I didn't. And you expect gratitude, a medal? I expect basic human decency. But I guess that's too much to ask from someone like you. Victoria raised her hand, as if to slap Elena. Marcus caught her wrist mid-swing. Don't, he said, his voice dangerous. Victoria stared at him in shock. Marcus? I said don't. He released her wrist and pointed to the door. Get out. Excuse me. You heard me. Get out of my room. I'm your fiancé. You're someone who just tried to assault the woman who saved my life. Get out before I call security. Victoria's face twisted with rage. Your father will hear about this. I'm sure he will. Now leave. For a moment, it looked like Victoria might refuse. Then she gathered what remained of her dignity, shot Elena a look of pure hatred, and stormed out of the room. The door slammed behind her. Silence. Marcus sank back against his pillows, exhausted. Elena stood frozen, her heart pounding. I'm sorry, Marcus said finally. I should have told you. Why didn't you? Because it doesn't matter. Victoria and I, it's not real. It never was. You're engaged to her. My father arranged it. Her family owns a media empire. Our families have been planning this merger for years. Marcus's voice was bitter. I'm just a piece on the chessboard. Elena sat down heavily in her chair. So you don't love her? I don't even like her. Then why are you marrying her? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Because until last night, I didn't think I had a choice. I was going to inherit my father's company, marry Victoria Produce heirs, and live the life that was planned for me before I was even born. And now I'm not sure about anything. He looked at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. Except that I don't want you to leave. Elena's heart raced. Marcus. I know we just met. I know this is crazy. But when I woke up and saw you standing there, something changed. Like I'd been asleep my whole life and finally woke up. That's the trauma talking. Maybe. Or maybe it's the truth. He reached out and took her hand. Stay. Please. Just until I figure things out. Elena knew she should say no. Every rational part of her brain screamed that this was a mistake. She was a poor girl from the Bronx. He was a billionaire's son with a fiancé and a family who would never accept her. But when she looked into his eyes, rational thought disappeared. Okay, she heard herself say. I'll stay. Marcus smiled, and for the second time, Elena felt that strange connection between them. The invisible thread her grandmother had told her about. Maybe this is meant to be, she thought, or maybe she was walking into a trap she couldn't see. 2 hours later, the real trouble began. Richard Wellington arrived at 10 a.m. with David Morrison at his side. His expression was grim. His eyes barely glanced at Elena before focusing on his son. We need to talk, Richard said. Alone. Marcus shook his head. Whatever you have to say, you can say in front of Elena. This is family business. She saved my life. That makes her family. Richard's jaw tightened. He glanced at David, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. Fine, Richard said. Have it your way. He pulled a folder from his briefcase and tossed it onto the bed. What's this? Marcus asked. Everything we know about your new friend. Elena's blood ran cold. She watched Marcus open the folder and flip through the pages inside. Elena Maria Martinez, Richard recited from memory. Born 24 years ago in the Bronx. Mother died in childbirth. Father unknown. Raised by her grandmother Rosa Martinez, who died 3 months ago from cancer. Marcus looked up. So she has nothing, David interjected smoothly. No education past high school. No job history except selling homemade remedies on street corners. No savings, no prospects, no future. I fail to see how any of this is relevant. It's relevant because it establishes motive. David stepped forward, his voice reasonable and calm. Think about it, Marcus. Why would a complete stranger spend 4 days trying to save your life? Why would she fight so hard to reach you? Because she's a good person. David laughed. No one is that good. Everyone wants something. Elena couldn't stay silent any longer. I told you, I don't want anything. Please. David's smile was condescending. You live in poverty. You have no opportunities. And suddenly you have access to one of the wealthiest families in America. You expect us to believe you haven't calculated how to benefit from this situation. I saved his life. You poured an unknown substance on a dying man and got lucky. For all we know, he would have recovered on his own. The doctors said he had hours to live. Doctors make mistakes. Elena looked at Richard desperate. Mr. Wellington, you were there. You saw what happened. Richard's expression was unreadable. I saw something I don't understand. That doesn't mean I trust you. But you said... I said I was grateful. I am. But gratitude doesn't mean I'll let you exploit my family. Marcus threw the folder across the room. This is insane. Elena saved my life and you're treating her like a criminal. We're protecting you, Richard said. From what the woman who pulled me back from death. From yourself. Richard's voice hardened. You've been through a trauma, Marcus. You're not thinking clearly. You're forming attachments that don't make sense. The only thing that doesn't make sense is this conversation. Listen to me. Richard leaned close, his voice low and intense. Victoria called me this morning. She told me what happened. She told me you defended this girl and threw your fiancé out of the room. Victoria tried to slap Elena. Victoria is your future wife. Victoria is a business arrangement that you made without asking me. The words exploded out of Marcus with years of suppressed rage behind them. Richard stepped back as if struck. Everything I've done has been for your future. My future or yours. Marcus struggled to sit up straighter. You've controlled every aspect of my life since I was born. Where I went to school, who I spent time with, what career I would have, who I would marry. Did you ever once ask what I wanted? You're my heir. You have responsibilities. I'm your son. Doesn't that mean anything? Silence crashed over the room. Richard's face was pale. His hands trembled slightly at his sides. Elena watched the confrontation with growing horror. She had caused this. Her presence had ignited a fire that had been building for years. Maybe I should go, she said quietly. No. Marcus's voice was firm. You're the only honest person in this room. Marcus, Richard said, and there was something new in his voice. Something that sounded almost like pleading. I know I haven't been the father you deserved. After your mother died. Don't. Marcus's voice cracked. Don't use Mom as an excuse. I'm not making excuses. I'm trying to explain. Richard ran a hand over his face. When Catherine died, something in me broke. I threw myself into work because it was easier than feeling. And in the process, I failed you. You didn't fail me. You abandoned me. The word hung in the air like a knife. Richard closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were wet. You're right, he whispered. I abandoned you, and I'm sorry. Marcus stared at his father. In 24 years, he had never heard Richard Wellington apologize for anything. I don't expect you to forgive me, Richard continued. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm asking you to give me a chance. Let me try to be the father I should have been. And Elena? Richard glanced at her. The hostility in his eyes had faded, replaced by something more complicated. She can stay. For now. He held up a hand before Marcus could respond. But I want to understand what she did. How she did it. I want Dr. Hayes to examine her study, her methods. I'm not a lab rat, Elena said. I'm not asking you to be. I'm asking for transparency. If your grandmother's remedies are real, they could help other people. Don't you want that? Elena hesitated. Part of her wanted to refuse, to protect her grandmother's secrets from people who would exploit them. But another part of her thought about all the people who might be suffering the way Marcus had suffered. The people who might be saved if she shared what she knew. I'll think about it, she said finally. Richard nodded. That's all I ask. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. David, you stay here. I want you to coordinate with hospital security. Make sure there are no more incidents. David's smile was pleasant, but his eyes were cold. Of course, Richard. Richard left. The door clicked shut behind him, and Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Because David Morrison was looking at her the way a wolf looks at wounded prey. Well, David said softly, it seems you've won this round. I'm not playing a game. Everything is a game, Miss Martinez. The sooner you learn that, the longer you'll survive. Marcus struggled to sit up. Leave her alone, David. I'm not doing anything. Just having a conversation. David straightened his tie. But I should warn you both. Victoria Hamilton is not a woman who accepts rejection gracefully, and her family has resources that make the Wellingtons look like middle class. Is that a threat? Marcus demanded. It's information. What you do with it is your choice. David walked to the door, then paused. Oh, and Miss Martinez. We recovered fragments of the bottle you used. Our labs are analyzing the contents as we speak. Soon, we'll know exactly what you put on Marcus. Elena's heart stopped. There's nothing dangerous in that remedy. I'm sure there isn't, but if there is... David's smile widened. Well, poisoning a patient is a serious crime, even if the patient survives. He left without another word. Elena couldn't breathe. Her grandmother's remedy wasn't poison. She knew that with absolute certainty. But if David Morrison's labs found anything they could twist into evidence of wrongdoing... Elena! Marcus's voice cut through her panic. Look at me. She turned to face him. He had never seen her afraid before. Even when his father was threatening her, she had stood her ground. But now her hands were shaking. He's bluffing, Marcus said. There's nothing in that remedy that could hurt anyone. You don't know that. I know you. You saved my life because you're a good person. You're not capable of hurting anyone. But if they find something, if they twist it somehow, then we'll fight them, together. Marcus took her hand and squeezed it firmly. I'm not going to let anything happen to you. I promise. Elena wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that his promise meant something. But she had grown up in a world where promises were broken every day. Where the rich always won and the poor always suffered. Where justice was a luxury that people like her couldn't afford. You don't understand, she whispered. This is what they do. People like David Morrison. They destroy anyone who threatens them. And I'm threatening everything. What do you mean? Think about it. Victoria Hamilton was supposed to be your wife. Her family's media empire was supposed to merge with your father's company. Billions of dollars on the line. And now you're pushing Victoria away because of me. Marcus was quiet for a moment. You think they'll come after you to get me back in line? I think they'll do whatever it takes to protect their investment. Then we won't give them the chance. Marcus's voice hardened with determination. As soon as I'm well enough to leave this hospital, we're going somewhere they can't reach us. Where? I don't know yet, but I have money of my own. Money my father can't touch. We could disappear if we had to. Elena stared at him. You would give up everything. Your family, your inheritance, your entire life. That life was killing me, Elena. Literally. You said it yourself. My spirit was trying to leave because I couldn't bear to stay. He lifted her hand to his chest, pressing it over his heart. "This is the first time in years I've felt alive. Really alive. And it's because of you." Tears burned in Elena's eyes. "You barely know me." "I know enough. I know you're brave and kind and honest. I know you fought for me when everyone else gave up. I know that when I look at you, I see a future I actually want to live." "Marcus, tell me you don't feel it too. Tell me there's nothing between us, and I'll let you walk away right now." Elena opened her mouth to deny it, to protect herself, to do the smart thing, and run before this situation destroyed her. But the words wouldn't come, because she did feel it. That connection, that pull, the invisible thread binding her to this man she had saved from death. "I feel it," she admitted. "I don't understand it, but I feel it." Marcus smiled, and despite everything, despite the danger and the uncertainty and the powerful enemies gathering against them, Elena felt hope bloom in her chest. Maybe they could survive this. Maybe love was stronger than money and power and manipulation. Maybe her grandmother had sent her to Marcus for a reason. The door burst open. Dr. Hayes rushed in, his face pale with alarm. "We have a problem," he said. "Victoria Hamilton just called a press conference. She's telling reporters that you were poisoned by an unidentified woman who infiltrated the hospital." The blood drained from Elena's face. She's accusing Elena of attempted murder. Elena felt the floor disappear beneath her feet. Attempted murder. Victoria Hamilton was accusing her of attempted murder on live television. "When?" Marcus demanded, throwing off his blankets. "When did this happen?" 20 minutes ago." Dr. Hayes said, his voice tight. "Every major network picked it up. It's all over social media. The hospital is surrounded by reporters." "This is insane. Elena saved my life." "I know that. You know that. But Victoria is telling a very different story." Dr. Hayes pulled out his phone and handed it to Marcus. "See for yourself." Marcus pressed play on the video. Victoria's face filled the screen. She stood behind a podium, dabbing at perfectly dry eyes with a tissue. Her voice trembled with rehearsed emotion. "My fiancé was recovering when this woman forced her way into his room. She claimed to be a healer. She poured an unknown substance on Marcus without his consent. Within minutes, he went into cardiac arrest." "That's a lie." Elena grabbed the phone. "He was dying before I got there." The doctors had given up. The medical staff worked heroically to save him. Victoria continued on the screen. "But we have to ask ourselves what was really in that bottle. Who is this woman? And why was she so desperate to reach Marcus Wellington?" The video cut to a reporter asking questions. "Do you believe this was an assassination attempt?" Victoria's eyes widened with practiced shock. "I don't want to speculate, but Marcus is the sole heir to the Wellington fortune. His death would have significant financial implications. We're asking the police to investigate fully." Marcus hurled the phone across the room. It shattered against the wall. "She's destroying you," he said to Elena. "She's doing this to destroy you." "It's working." Elena's voice was barely a whisper. "If the police believe her." "They won't believe her. I'll tell them the truth." "And who will they believe, the billionaire's fiancée with her perfect makeup and her army of lawyers? Or the poor girl from the Bronx with no proof of anything?" Marcus grabbed her shoulders. "Look at me. I won't let them take you. Do you understand I will burn down everything I own before I let them hurt you?" The door slammed open. 2 police officers walked in, followed by David Morrison, wearing an expression of false concern. "Elena Martinez," the first officer said. Elena's heart stopped. "Yes." "You're under arrest for the attempted murder of Marcus Wellington. You have the right to remain silent." "No." Marcus lunged forward. "This is wrong. She saved me." The second officer blocked him. "Sir, please stay back. She didn't try to kill me. I was dying. She's the reason I'm alive." "Sir, we're just following procedure. Miss Martinez will have a chance to tell her side of the story. This is insane, David. Marcus turned to his father's advisor. Tell them you were here. You saw everything. David's face was a mask of sympathy. I saw a woman pour an unidentified liquid on a critically ill patient. What happened after that is a matter of interpretation. You lying son of a... Marcus. Elena's voice cut through his rage. She was calm. Too calm. Don't. Elena, you can't let them do this. If I fight, they'll add resisting arrest to the charges. She held out her wrists as the officer approached with handcuffs. I'll be okay. You don't know that. No, but I know that everything my grandmother taught me was true. The truth has a way of coming out. She looked at him one last time as the handcuffs clicked shut. Find a way to prove it. Find a way to show them what really happened. The officers led her toward the door. Elena. Marcus tried to follow, but the second officer held him back. Don't do anything stupid, Elena called over her shoulder. I need you free to help me. Then she was gone. The door closed, and Marcus Wellington was left standing in an empty room, his heart shattered into a million pieces. 2 hours later, Richard Wellington stormed into the hospital like a force of nature. Where is she? He demanded. Where did they take her? Marcus looked up from the chair where he had been sitting motionless since Elena's arrest. Manhattan Central Booking. They're processing her now. Have you called a lawyer? I've called 6. They're all afraid to take the case. Richard's eyes narrowed. Afraid of what? The Hamiltons. Victoria's family owns half the media in this country. Every lawyer I called said the same thing. They can't afford to make enemies of that family. Richard pulled out his phone. Then we'll find lawyers who can. Dad. Marcus stood slowly. You saw what she did. You watched her save my life. How can you stand there and let this happen? Richard was quiet for a moment. I'm not letting anything happen. I'm trying to help. By standing here making phone calls, Victoria is destroying an innocent woman because I rejected her. This is my fault, and yours. My fault. You arranged this engagement. You pushed me toward Victoria because her family was good for business. You never once asked if I wanted to marry her. You never once cared about what I felt. Richard's face hardened. I cared about your future. My future? Marcus laughed bitterly. What future? The one where I run your company and marry a woman I hate and pretend to be happy until I die inside. That's not a future. That's a prison sentence. I was trying to protect you. You were trying to control me. There's a difference. Father and son stared at each other across a chasm of years and misunderstandings. Elena asked me something last night, Marcus said quietly. She asked why my spirit was trying to leave, why I was dying, even though there was nothing physically wrong with me. And what did you tell her? I told her the truth, that I've been suffocating my whole life, that every day feels like drowning, that the only time I've ever felt truly alive was when I woke up and saw her face. Richard closed his eyes. When he opened them again, something had shifted. Your mother used to say the same thing, he murmured. What? That I was suffocating her, that my ambition was killing everything she loved about our life. Richard's voice cracked. I didn't listen. I was too focused on building the empire, and then she got sick and it was too late. Marcus felt something loosen in his chest. You never told me that. I never told anyone. I was too ashamed. Richard took a deep breath. Catherine made me promise at the end. She made me promise to let you live your own life, to not make the same mistakes with you that I made with her. And I broke that promise the moment she was gone, because controlling things was the only way I knew how to cope with losing her. Marcus didn't know what to say. In 24 years, his father had never opened up like this, never shown vulnerability, never admitted to being wrong. I'm sorry, Richard said, for everything, for Victoria, for the company, for trying to turn you into something you're not. He met his son's eyes. "And for what I'm about to do." "What are you about to do?" Richard's expression hardened with determination. "I'm going to destroy the Hamiltons." At Manhattan Central Booking, Elena sat alone in an interrogation room. Her wrists ached from the handcuffs. Her back hurt from the metal chair. But the physical discomfort was nothing compared to the fear gnawing at her insides. Attempted murder. If convicted, she could spend the rest of her life in prison for saving someone's life. The door opened. A detective walked in, late 40s, tired eyes, coffee stains on his tie. "Miss Martinez." He dropped a folder on the table and sat across from her. "I'm Detective Michael Torres. You want to tell me what really happened?" "I already told the officers." "Tell me again." Elena took a breath. "Marcus Wellington collapsed on the street 4 days ago. I was there. I felt something wrong with him. Something deeper than physical illness." "You felt something?" "Yes. And based on this feeling, you spent 4 days trying to get into a hospital where you had no business being." "I knew I could help him." "With a bottle of mystery liquid that you poured on a dying man." "It's a remedy. My grandmother made it. It's meant to wake the spirit when it starts to give up." Detective Torres leaned back in his chair. "Wake the spirit. I know how it sounds." "It sounds insane. That's how it sounds." He opened the folder and pulled out several photographs. "These are images from the hospital security cameras. They show you forcing your way past security. They show Mr. Wellington's father physically assaulting you. They show you entering the ICU against explicit orders. I was trying to save his life. Or trying to kill him. See, from where I'm sitting, both explanations fit the evidence. If I wanted to kill him, why would I fight so hard to reach him? Why would I let his father beat me? Why would I risk everything? Money, fame, access to one of the richest families in America. I don't care about money. Everyone cares about money, Miss Martinez." "Not me." Elena leaned forward. "I grew up with nothing. My grandmother raised me on pennies. She taught me that there are things more valuable than wealth, honor, truth, the ability to help people who are suffering. Very noble, but nobility doesn't explain why Marcus Wellington went into cardiac arrest immediately after you poured that substance on him. He went into cardiac arrest because his body was fighting to stay alive. The remedy woke his spirit. His heart had to restart to keep up." "So you're saying you stopped his heart on purpose?" "I'm saying I gave him a chance to choose, and he chose to live." Detective Torres stared at her for a long moment. There was something in his eyes that Elena couldn't read. "You know what I think," he said finally. "I think you believe everything you're saying. I think you genuinely believe you saved that man's life with your grandmother's magic potion. It's not magic. Whatever you want to call it." He closed the folder. "But here's the problem. Belief isn't evidence. And right now, the only evidence I have points to you being in that room when Marcus Wellington's heart stopped. He's alive because of what I did. Or he's alive despite what you did. That's what the DA is going to argue." Torres stood up. "I've been doing this job for 23 years. I've seen a lot of guilty people claim to be innocent. But I've also seen innocent people get destroyed by the system. Which one am I?" Torres paused at the door. "I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out." He left. And Elena was alone again. 6 hours passed. Elena was transferred to a holding cell. She sat on a narrow bench, surrounded by women who looked at her with suspicion and contempt. The rich man's killer, the Bronx witch. The names followed her like shadows. She closed her eyes and thought about her grandmother. What would Rosa do in this situation? What wisdom would she offer? When the storm comes. Rosa used to say, "The tree that bends survives. The tree that resists breaks." But Elena didn't know how to bend anymore. She had spent her whole life standing firm against forces that tried to break her: poverty, discrimination, a system that saw people like her as disposable. And now that same system was about to swallow her whole. Martinez. A guard appeared at the cell door. "You're being released." Elena's head snapped up. "What?" "Bail has been posted. Some fancy lawyer is waiting for you outside." Elena walked through the release process in a daze. Paperwork, signatures, personal effects returned in a plastic bag. It all felt surreal, like it was happening to someone else. When she stepped through the final door into freedom, Marcus was waiting for her. She ran into his arms. "I thought I'd lost you," he whispered against her hair. "I thought I'd lost me too." He pulled back to look at her face. "Are you okay? Did they hurt you?" "I'm fine, just tired." She searched his eyes. "How did you get me out? Victoria has the whole system against us." "My father." "Richard." "He put up the bail, $2 million. Marcus smiled grimly. "Apparently destroying the Hamiltons requires a free partner in crime." "I don't understand." "I'll explain in the car. Right now we need to get you somewhere safe." They walked toward a black SUV waiting at the curb. But before they reached it, a mob of reporters surged forward. "Miss Martinez, did you try to kill Marcus Wellington? Are you having an affair with the billionaire's son? What was in the bottle you poured on him?" Marcus shielded Elena with his body pushing through the crowd. Flashbulbs exploded in their faces. Microphones jabbed at them like weapons. "No comment!" Marcus shouted. "Leave us alone!" They finally reached the car. The driver had the door open. They dove inside, and the SUV peeled away from the curb. Elena was shaking. "This is never going to end," she said. "They're never going to stop." "Yes, they will." Marcus took her hand. "Because we're going to fight back." How Victoria has the media. She has the money. She has the power. She has one thing we don't. "What?" "Secrets." Marcus's voice hardened. "Everyone has secrets, and my father knows where all of Victoria's are buried." The SUV pulled up to a building Elena didn't recognize. Modern, sleek, the kind of place she had never been allowed to enter. "Where are we?" "My mother's apartment, the one she kept separate from my father. Nobody knows about it except me." They went inside. The apartment was beautiful, filled with art and books and warmth. Nothing like the cold sterility of the Wellington mansion. "She left this to me," Marcus said. "In her will. My father doesn't even have a key." Elena walked through the space slowly. She could feel Catherine Wellington's presence everywhere. The woman who had died before her time. The woman whose son was now fighting for his life in a different way. "Why did you bring me here?" Elena asked. "Because it's safe. And because there's something you need to see." Marcus walked to a bookshelf and pulled out a leather-bound journal. "My mother kept diaries. She wrote in them every day until she got too sick to hold a pen." He handed the journal to Elena. "The last entry is about Victoria Hamilton." Elena opened the book. The handwriting was elegant but shaky. The words were dated 3 weeks before Catherine Wellington's death. She began to read. "I finally found the truth about Victoria. She's not who she pretends to be. The Hamilton family has been hiding something terrible for years, something that would destroy them if it ever came out. I wanted to tell Richard, but I was too weak. I pray Marcus finds the strength to escape her before it's too late." Elena looked up at Marcus. "What secret?" she asked. "What are the Hamiltons hiding?" "That's what we're going to find out." Marcus took out his phone. "My father is already digging. He has contacts everywhere. If there's something buried, he'll find it. And if he doesn't, then we'll find another way." Marcus moved closer, cupping her face in his hands. "I'm not giving up. I'm not letting Victoria win. And I'm not losing you. Not after everything we've been through." Elena felt tears spill down her cheeks. Why are you doing this? You could walk away, make peace with Victoria, go back to your old life. Because my old life was killing me, because you showed me what it means to truly live. He wiped her tears with his thumbs. And because I love you. The words hung in the air between them. You don't know me, Elena whispered. I know enough. Marcus pressed his forehead against hers. I know that you're the bravest person I've ever met. I know that you risked everything to save a stranger. I know that when I look at you, I see a future worth fighting for. Marcus, you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. Elena closed her eyes. Her heart was racing. Everything was happening so fast. A week ago, she was selling remedies on a street corner. Now she was standing in a dead woman's apartment, falling in love with her son, while the whole world tried to destroy them. I'm scared, she admitted. So am I. What if we lose? Then we lose together. Marcus kissed her. It was soft at first, gentle, a question more than a statement. Then Elena wrapped her arms around him, and the kiss deepened into something fierce and desperate and alive. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were trembling. Whatever happens next, Marcus said, we face it together. Together, Elena agreed. Marcus's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen, and his expression transformed. It's my father. He found something. What? Marcus read the message. His eyes widened. Victoria Hamilton isn't her real name. His voice was barely a whisper. She's been lying about who she is for her entire life. Marcus read the message 3 times before the words sank in. Her real name is Victoria Kozlov, he said slowly. She was born in Russia. Her father was Sergei Kozlov. Elena frowned. Who is Sergei Kozlov? One of the most dangerous criminals in Eastern Europe. He ran a human trafficking ring for 15 years before he was killed by a rival gang. Marcus looked up from his phone. Victoria is the daughter of a monster. How did she become Victoria Hamilton? That's what my father is trying to find out. But he says the Hamilton family paid millions to bury her past. They literally bought her a new identity. Elena's mind raced. If this gets out? The Hamiltons are finished. Their entire empire is built on reputation. They own media companies, news networks, newspapers. They've spent decades positioning themselves as America's moral guardians. Marcus laughed bitterly. And their golden daughter is the child of a human trafficker. But why would they adopt her? Why take that risk? Money, power, the same reasons people do everything. Marcus scrolled through more messages. My father thinks Sergei Kozlov had leverage on the Hamiltons, something that forced them to take Victoria in and give her a new life. What kind of leverage? He doesn't know yet, but he's getting close. Elena sat down heavily on the couch. Her head was spinning. 24 hours ago, she had been sitting in a jail cell facing attempted murder charges. Now she was hiding in a secret apartment, with the man she loved uncovering a conspiracy that went deeper than she ever imagined. This changes everything, she said. Yes, it does. Marcus sat beside her. If we can prove Victoria's real identity, we can discredit her completely. Her accusations against you will fall apart. But how do we prove it? Your father found documents, but Victoria will claim they're fabricated. We need someone who knew her before, someone who can testify to who she really was. Elena thought for a moment. Her mother. What happened to her mother? Marcus checked his phone again. Natasha Kozlov. She was Sergei's wife. According to my father's sources, she disappeared around the same time Victoria was adopted by the Hamiltons. Disappeared or was disappeared? That's the question, isn't it? Marcus's phone rang. He answered immediately. Dad, what did you find? Elena watched his face as he listened. She saw surprise, then shock, then something that looked like fear. Are you sure? Marcus asked. That's impossible. More listening. Where is she now? His expression hardened. We'll be there in an hour. He hung up. What? Elena demanded. What is it? Natasha Kozlov didn't disappear. She's been living in New York for the past 20 years. Marcus's voice was tight. Under a different name, working as a housekeeper. For who? Marcus met her eyes. For my family. The drive to the Wellington estate took 45 minutes. Elena sat in silence trying to process what Marcus had told her. Natasha Kozlov, Victoria's biological mother, had been working in the Wellington household for 2 decades. She had cleaned their floors, washed their clothes, cooked their meals, and no one had known who she really was. How is this possible? Elena finally asked. How could she hide for so long? The Hamiltons must have arranged it. They gave her a new identity just like Victoria. Put her somewhere they could keep an eye on her. But why your family? Why the Wellingtons? I don't know, but I'm about to find out. The SUV pulled through the gates of the Wellington estate. Elena had never seen anything like it. The mansion was enormous, surrounded by manicured gardens and security checkpoints. This is where Marcus grew up, she thought. This is the world he's trying to escape. Richard Wellington met them at the door. She's in the library, he said without greeting. I haven't confronted her yet. I wanted you both to hear what she has to say. They walked through endless hallways until they reached a heavy oak door. Richard pushed it open. A woman stood by the window. She was in her 60s, small and slight, with gray hair pulled back in a bun. She wore a simple black dress, the uniform of a servant. But her eyes, Elena saw something in those eyes that she recognized. The same haunted look she had seen in her grandmother's face when Rosa talked about the old country. The look of someone who had seen too much and survived anyway. Natasha, Richard said. The woman turned slowly. When she saw Marcus, her face crumpled. Little Marcus, she whispered. You've grown so tall. Marcus stepped forward. You know who I am. I've known you since the day you were born. I held you in my arms when your mother brought you home from the hospital. And you never told me. You never told anyone. I couldn't. Tears spilled down Natasha's weathered cheeks. They would have killed me. They would have killed Victoria. Victoria tried to destroy the woman I love. She accused Elena of attempted murder. Natasha's eyes flicked to Elena. Something passed between them. Recognition, perhaps. One woman who had survived against all odds looking at another. I know what my daughter has become, Natasha said quietly. I've watched her from a distance for 20 years. Watched her transform into someone I don't recognize. Then help us stop her, Elena said. Tell us the truth. Natasha was silent for a long moment. Then she walked to a chair and sat down heavily. It started 30 years ago, she began. In Moscow. I was young, beautiful, stupid. I fell in love with a man who turned out to be a monster. Sergei Kozlov, Richard said. Yes, Victoria's father. Natasha's voice trembled. By the time I realized what he was, I was already pregnant. He wouldn't let me leave. He said if I tried to run, he would kill me and the baby both. How did you escape? Elena asked. I didn't, not at first. Natasha twisted her hands in her lap. Victoria was born. She was beautiful, perfect. I thought maybe I could protect her from her father's world, but Sergei had other plans. What plans? He wanted to use her, to marry her to the son of another crime boss, cement an alliance between families. Natasha's face contorted with disgust. She was only 12 years old when he started planning it. Marcus felt sick. My God. I knew I had to get her out, so I made a deal, with the only people powerful enough to stand up to Sergei. The Hamiltons, Richard said. Yes, James Hamilton was doing business with Sergei at the time. Illegal business, money laundering, arms deals, things that would destroy him if they ever came out. So you blackmailed him. I gave him a choice. Help me save my daughter, or I would expose everything. Natasha smiled bitterly. He chose to help. He arranged for Victoria to be brought to America, gave her a new identity, adopted her legally. And in exchange, Elena asked. In exchange, I would disappear, become nobody, work for a family the Hamiltons trusted to keep me close but silent. Natasha looked at Richard. Your family. Richard's face was pale. My father knew about this. He knew everything. He and James Hamilton were partners in more than just business. The revelation hit like a bomb. Marcus turned to his father. You knew all this time, you knew. No. Richard's voice shook. I had no idea. My father died 15 years ago. He never told me any of this. But the Hamiltons knew, Elena said. They've known the whole time. Yes, Natasha nodded. And they've been holding it over me ever since. If I speak, they'll reveal my past. I'll be arrested, deported, maybe killed. So why speak now? Marcus demanded. Natasha looked at him with eyes full of pain. Because I can't watch my daughter destroy another innocent person. She turned to Elena. I saw the news, what Victoria is doing to you, the lies she's telling. You could have come forward sooner. And risk everything, risk my life. Natasha shook her head. I'm a coward. I've always been a coward. But there comes a point when even cowards must choose. Elena felt something shift in her heart. This woman had suffered, had survived, had made impossible choices to protect her child, just like Rosa. What exactly can you prove? Elena asked. What evidence do you have? Natasha reached into her pocket and pulled out a small key. Everything. Birth certificates, DNA records, financial documents showing payments from the Hamiltons to Sergei Kozlov, photographs of Victoria as a child in Moscow. She held out the key. It's all in a safety deposit box. I've been keeping it for 20 years. Insurance against the day they decided I was no longer useful. Marcus took the key. Why didn't you use this before? Because using it meant destroying Victoria. She's still my daughter. Despite everything, I still love her. She's trying to send an innocent woman to prison. I know. Tears streamed down Natasha's face, and that's why I'm finally choosing to act. Because if I stay silent, I'm no better than the monsters I've spent my life running from. Richard stepped forward. Natasha, if we release this information, the Hamiltons will come after you. Let them. Her voice steadied. I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of being afraid. They could kill you. Then at least I'll die knowing I finally did the right thing. 3 hours later, they had everything. The safety deposit box contained exactly what Natasha had promised. Documents, photographs, a paper trail that linked the Hamilton family to one of the most notorious criminals in Russian history. And at the center of it all, Victoria. Not Victoria Hamilton, beloved media heiress. Victoria Kozlov, daughter of a human trafficker. This is incredible, Richard muttered, flipping through the papers. James Hamilton has been lying for 30 years. The question is what we do with it, Marcus said. If we go public, we destroy the Hamiltons. Good, Elena said coldly. After what they did to me, they deserve to be destroyed. But we also expose Natasha. She could face criminal charges for her connection to Sergei. Elena looked at the older woman. Natasha sat quietly in the corner, her fate in the hands of people she barely knew. What do you want us to do? Elena asked her. Natasha raised her head. Whatever it takes to save you. I've spent 20 years protecting Victoria. Now it's time to protect someone who actually deserves it. Are you sure? I'm sure. Marcus pulled out his phone. I know a journalist, someone who can't be bought by the Hamiltons. If we give this to her, she'll make sure it gets out. Do it, Richard said. Wait. Elena held up her hand. Before we burn everything down, there's something I need to do first. What? I need to talk to Victoria. The room went silent. Are you insane? Marcus demanded. She's trying to send you to prison. I know, but Natasha gave up everything to protect her daughter. The least I can do is give Victoria a chance to hear the truth before it destroys her. She doesn't deserve a chance. Maybe not. But I didn't survive my grandmother's teachings to become someone who destroys people without warning. Elena's voice softened. My grandmother always said that everyone deserves the chance to choose, even people who have made terrible choices. Marcus stared at her. You're serious? I'm serious. She'll never listen. Maybe not, but at least I'll know I tried. Richard shook his head in disbelief. You're either the bravest person I've ever met, or the most foolish. Elena smiled sadly. My grandmother would say there's not much difference. 1 hour later, Elena stood outside Victoria Hamilton's penthouse. She had come alone despite Marcus's protests. This was something she needed to do herself. The door opened. Victoria stood there in a silk robe, her face perfectly made up even at this late hour. You! Victoria's eyes widened. How dare you come here? We need to talk. I have nothing to say to you. But I have something to say to you. About your mother. Victoria's face went pale. What did you say? Natasha. That's her name, isn't it? The woman who gave birth to you in Moscow 30 years ago. Victoria's hand shot out and grabbed Elena's arm, yanking her inside. How do you know that name? Victoria hissed. Who told you? She did. Natasha. She's been working in the Wellington household for 20 years, watching her daughter from a distance. Victoria released her as if burned. That's impossible. It's true. And we have proof. Documents, photographs, everything that shows who you really are and where you really come from. Victoria stumbled backward. For the first time since Elena had met her, the mask of perfect composure cracked. You're lying. I'm not. And tomorrow all of it goes to the press. Unless. Unless what? Unless you drop the charges against me, publicly admit that you lied, and walk away from Marcus forever. Victoria laughed. It was a hollow, desperate sound. You think you can blackmail me? Me? I'm not blackmailing you. I'm giving you a choice. The same choice your mother gave you 30 years ago. The chance to start over. To become someone different. I don't need to start over. I'm Victoria Hamilton. I have power, money, connections. You have lies, a whole life built on lies. Elena stepped closer. I know what it's like to have nothing, to fight for everything. But I also know that truth is more powerful than any lie, no matter how well constructed. Victoria's eyes filled with tears, real tears this time. You don't understand, she whispered. I can't go back. If people find out who I really am, everything falls apart. Then let it fall, and build something real from the ashes. It's not that simple. It is that simple. It's just not easy. Victoria turned away. Her shoulders shook with silent sobs. Elena waited. Finally, Victoria spoke. My father was a monster. He did things that still give me nightmares. The Hamiltons saved me from that life. They gave me everything. They gave you a cage made of gold. That's not salvation. That's imprisonment. It's better than where I came from. Is it? Look at what you've become. You're willing to destroy an innocent woman to protect a lie. Is that really better than what your father would have done? Victoria spun around. Don't you dare compare me to him. Then don't act like him. The words hung between them like a challenge. Victoria's face crumbled, the perfect makeup smeared with tears. The elegant facade collapsed into something raw and broken. I don't know how to be anyone else, she admitted. I've been pretending for so long I don't even remember who I was before. Elena felt something unexpected stir in her chest. Compassion. It's never too late to choose differently, she said softly. My grandmother used to say that every moment is a chance to begin again. Your grandmother sounds like a wise woman. She was, She saved my life more times than I can count." Elena reached out and took Victoria's hand. "She would have wanted me to give you this chance, even after everything you've done." Victoria looked at their joined hands. Poor girl and rich girl. Victim and victimizer. "Why?" Victoria asked. "Why would you do this for me?" "Because I know what it's like to be trapped. And because I believe that everyone, even people who have done terrible things, can choose to be better." Victoria was silent for a long time. Then she pulled her hand away. "The press conference is scheduled for tomorrow at noon. I was going to announce new evidence against you." She took a shaky breath. "Instead, I'll retract everything. Publicly apologize. Admit that I was wrong." Elena felt relief flood through her. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. The Hamiltons will destroy me for this. James will never forgive me for exposing the family." "You're not exposing them. You're setting yourself free." Victoria laughed bitterly. "Freedom? I'm not sure I know what that means anymore. Maybe it's time to find out." Elena walked to the door. She paused with her hand on the handle. "For what it's worth," she said, "I think there's still good in you. Buried under all the lies and the fear. Your mother saw it. That's why she sacrificed everything to save you." Victoria said nothing, but something shifted in her eyes. Elena left. When she got back to Marcus's mother's apartment, everyone was waiting. "What happened?" Marcus demanded. "Did she listen?" Elena smiled. She listened. "And the press conference tomorrow. She's going to retract everything, apologize publicly, clear my name." Richard's jaw dropped. "How did you manage that?" "I gave her the truth, and a choice. That's it. No threats, no blackmail. My grandmother always said that truth spoken with love is more powerful than any weapon." Elena sat down suddenly exhausted. Victoria made terrible choices, but she made them because she was trapped in a life built on lies. I just showed her the door. Marcus knelt beside her. "You're incredible. Do you know that I'm just doing what my grandmother taught me?" "What happens now?" "Now we wait and hope that Victoria keeps her word." "And if she doesn't?" Elena looked at him with calm certainty. "Then we release everything, but I don't think we'll need to." 12 hours later, Victoria Hamilton stood before a crowd of reporters. Her face was pale. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice was steady as she spoke. "I called this press conference to make a correction. Several days ago, I accused Elena Martinez of attempting to harm Marcus Wellington. I was wrong." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "Miss Martinez did not try to hurt Marcus. In fact, she saved his life. I allowed my fear and jealousy to cloud my judgment, and I made accusations that were completely unfounded." The murmurs grew louder. "I am deeply sorry for the pain I have caused Miss Martinez and her family. I am withdrawing all charges and asking the district attorney to dismiss the case immediately." Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. But Victoria was already walking away. In the apartment, Elena watched the press conference on television. Marcus sat beside her, his hand tight around hers. "She did it," he breathed. "I can't believe she actually did it." "I can." Elena wiped tears from her eyes. "She was trapped. Now she's free." "What do you think will happen to her?" "I don't know, but I hope she finds what she's looking for." Marcus pulled her into his arms. "It's over," he whispered. "It's finally over." Elena buried her face in his chest. But something told her it wasn't over. Not yet, not quite. Because across the city in a darkened office, David Morrison was watching the same press conference. And his face was twisted with rage. He picked up his phone and dialed a number. "Victoria betrayed us," he said coldly. "We need to move to Plan B." He listened for a moment. "Yes, both of them. Make it look like an accident." He hung up and smiled. The black van appeared out of nowhere. Elena saw it first. A flash of movement in the side mirror. Then the van slammed into the back of their SUV with brutal force. "Hold on!" Marcus grabbed Elena as the vehicle spun out of control. Tires screamed. Glass shattered. The world became a blur of motion and terror. Their SUV flipped once, twice, then crashed through a guardrail and tumbled down an embankment. Elena felt Marcus's arms wrap around her. She heard him scream her name. Then everything went black. When she opened her eyes, she was upside down. Blood dripped from a cut on her forehead. Her seatbelt dug into her chest. Through the cracked windshield, she could see Boots approaching. "Marcus?" she croaked. No response. She turned her head. Marcus hung beside her, unconscious, blood streaming from his temple. "Marcus, wake up." The driver's door was ripped open. A man in black reached in and grabbed Elena's arm. "Don't fight," he said coldly. "It'll be easier that way." Elena fought anyway. She scratched. She bit. She screamed until her throat burned. But the man was stronger. He dragged her from the wreckage and threw her onto the ground. Two other men pulled Marcus from the vehicle. His body was limp, lifeless. "Is he dead?" the first man asked. "Not yet, but he will be." Elena's heart shattered. "No, please, I'll do anything." The man crouched beside her. His face was expressionless, professional. "David Morrison sends his regards." He raised a gun. Elena closed her eyes. This is how it ends, she thought. After everything, after all the fighting, after all the hope. She thought of her grandmother, of the lessons Rosa had taught her, of the love that had sustained her through every hardship. "I'm sorry, Abuela. I tried." The gunshot never came. Instead, she heard shouting, tires screeching, more gunshots, but distant. Then the man above her grunted and collapsed. Elena opened her eyes. Richard Wellington stood over her, a gun in his hand, his face twisted with fury. "Get away from them!" he roared. Behind him, a dozen armed security guards swarmed the scene. The men in black tried to run. They didn't get far. Richard dropped to his knees beside Elena. "Are you hurt? Can you move?" "Marcus." She grabbed Richard's arm. "Help Marcus." Richard turned to his son. His face went white. "Get the medics!" he screamed. "Now!" Everything after that was a blur. Paramedics arrived. Marcus was loaded onto a stretcher. Elena refused to leave his side. She held his hand in the ambulance, whispering prayers she hadn't spoken since childhood. "Stay with me," she begged. "You can't leave me now. Not after everything." Marcus didn't respond. His heart stopped twice on the way to the hospital. Twice the paramedics brought him back. When they arrived at the emergency room, doctors rushed Marcus into surgery. Elena tried to follow. Security held her back. "Let me go. I have to be with him." "Ma'am, you can't go in there. The surgeons need space to work." "I can save him. I saved him before." "Ma'am, please." "Let her go." Richard's voice cut through the chaos. Security released Elena. She collapsed into Richard's arms, sobbing. "He's going to die," she choked. "He's going to die, and it's my fault." "It's not your fault. It's David Morrison's fault." Richard's voice shook with rage. "And I swear to God I will make him pay." "Where is he? Where's David?" "My people are looking for him. He won't get far." Elena pulled back and wiped her eyes. "How did you find us? How did you know?" "One of my security team spotted the van following you. He called me immediately. We got there as fast as we could." "If you'd been 1 minute later—" "I know." Richard's face was haunted. "I know." They waited. Minutes turned into hours. The surgery stretched on with no word from the doctors. Elena paced the waiting room until her legs ached. Richard made phone call after phone call, coordinating the hunt for David Morrison. Finally, at 3:47 a.m., the surgeon emerged. Elena rushed toward him. How is he? Is he alive? The surgeon's face was exhausted but calm. He's stable. The bullet missed his vital organs by millimeters. He lost a lot of blood, but we were able to repair the damage. Elena's legs gave out. Richard caught her before she hit the floor. He's going to live, she whispered. He's going to live. He's young and strong. With proper care, he should make a full recovery. Elena burst into tears. Relief. Gratitude. 100 emotions she couldn't name. Can I see him? He's in the ICU. He won't wake up for several hours, but you can sit with him. Elena didn't wait for permission. She ran. Marcus lay in the hospital bed, pale and still connected to machines that beeped and hummed. But his chest rose and fell with steady rhythm. His heart monitor showed a strong, regular pulse. He was alive. Elena pulled a chair beside his bed and took his hand. I'm here, she whispered. I'm not going anywhere. She stayed all night. Somewhere around dawn, Marcus's fingers twitched in hers. Elena. His voice was barely audible. She leaned close. I'm here. I'm right here. His eyes fluttered open. Confused at first, then focusing on her face. You're crying. Because you're alive, you idiot. She kissed his hand. You scared me. You scared me so much. What happened? David Morrison tried to kill us. Your father saved our lives. Marcus processed this slowly. My father, he shot the man who was about to execute me. His security team took down the others. Where's David now? Running, but not for long. Marcus closed his eyes. I thought I lost you, in the crash. I thought you were dead. I thought the same about you. Elena. He opened his eyes again, more alert now. I need to tell you something. It can wait. You need to rest. No, it can't wait. He squeezed her hand with surprising strength. When I was unconscious, I saw something. What did you see? My mother. She was standing in a garden smiling at me. Marcus's voice cracked. She said she was proud of me. Proud that I finally found the courage to live my own life. Elena felt tears slide down her cheeks. She said something else too. Marcus looked into her eyes. She said you were the one. The person I was meant to find. The person who would teach me how to love. Marcus? I already knew it. From the moment you poured that remedy on me and pulled me back from death. I knew you were different. Special. He lifted his hand to touch her face. I love you, Elena. I love you more than I've ever loved anything in my life. Elena leaned down and kissed him softly. I love you too. They stayed like that for a long moment. Two people who had survived the impossible. Two people who had found each other against all odds. Then the door burst open. Richard strode in, his face grim. They found David Morrison. Marcus struggled to sit up. Where? He tried to flee the country. Private plane to Moscow. Our people intercepted him at the airport. Is he in custody? Better than that. Richard's smile was cold. He's talking. Trying to cut a deal. He's giving up everyone. The Hamiltons, the conspiracy, everything. Elena felt a weight lift from her shoulders. It's really over. Almost. Richard looked at his son. There's one more thing. Victoria Hamilton is here. She wants to see you both. Marcus's jaw tightened. Why? She says she has information. Something important about David Morrison and the Hamiltons. I don't trust her. Neither do I. But she came alone. No security. No lawyers. Whatever she has to say, it seems genuine. Marcus looked at Elena. What do you think? Elena considered for a moment. Victoria had tried to destroy her, had accused her of attempted murder, had nearly cost her everything, but Victoria had also retracted those accusations, had publicly apologized, had chosen truth over lies. "Let her in," Elena said. Victoria entered slowly. She looked different, smaller somehow. The perfect makeup was gone. The designer clothes replaced by simple jeans and a sweater. She looked human. "Thank you for seeing me," Victoria said quietly. "You have 5 minutes," Marcus replied coldly. "That's all I need." Victoria took a deep breath. "I came to apologize. Not the public apology I made at the press conference, a real one." "You already apologized." "I apologized for the accusations. I never apologized for who I was, for what I let myself become." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "I was so afraid of being Victoria Kozlov again that I became someone even worse, someone who hurt innocent people to protect lies." Elena stepped forward. "Why are you telling us this now?" "Because I want you to understand something. What David Morrison did, the attempt on your lives, he didn't do it alone." Richard's expression sharpened. "What do you mean?" "James Hamilton ordered it, my adoptive father. He's been controlling David for years, using him to eliminate threats to the family." Victoria's voice trembled. "When I announced I was retracting the charges against Elena, James called me. He said I had betrayed the family. He said there would be consequences." "What kind of consequences?" "I didn't know at first. Then I heard about the accident." Victoria looked at Marcus. "I realized James had ordered David to kill you both, to tie up loose ends." Marcus felt sick. "Your father tried to have us murdered." "He's not my father. He's the man who bought me and used me as a prop for 30 years. Victoria's composure finally cracked. "I'm done protecting him. I'm done protecting any of them." "What are you offering?" Richard asked. "Everything. Financial records, communications, proof of every illegal thing James Hamilton has done since he adopted me." Victoria pulled a flash drive from her pocket. "It's all here. Enough to put him away for life." Richard took the drive. "Why give this to us?" "You could have gone to the FBI." "Because I owed Elena. She gave me a chance to choose differently. She showed me compassion when I deserved none." Victoria turned to Elena. "I can never make up for what I did to you, but I can make sure the people who tried to kill you face justice." Elena studied Victoria's face. The tears were real. The regret was real. Maybe redemption was possible after all. "Thank you," Elena said quietly. Victoria nodded. Then she turned and walked out without another word. 3 weeks later, James Hamilton was arrested. The evidence Victoria provided led to a cascade of revelations. Financial crimes, conspiracy, attempted murder. The Hamilton media empire crumbled overnight. David Morrison pleaded guilty to avoid trial. He was sentenced to 40 years in federal prison. And through it all, Elena stayed by Marcus's side. His recovery was slow but steady. Physical therapy, counseling, long conversations about the future they wanted to build together. "I've been thinking," Marcus said one afternoon. They were sitting in the garden of his mother's apartment. The place had become their refuge, a sanctuary from the chaos of the outside world. "About what?" Elena asked. "About what comes next, for us, for everything." Elena squeezed his hand. "Tell me. I don't want to run my father's company. I never did." Marcus took a deep breath. "But I do want to do something meaningful with my life. Something that helps people." "What did you have in mind?" "Your grandmother's remedies. Her knowledge. You said she wanted it to be shared with the world." Elena nodded slowly. "She did. She believed healing should be available to everyone, not just the rich." "Then let's make that happen. Let's build something together. A foundation, a clinic, a place where traditional healing and modern medicine work side by side." Elena felt her heart swell. "You want to do that for real?" "For real. We have the resources, we have the knowledge, and most importantly, we have each other." Elena threw her arms around him. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times yes. 6 months later, the Rosa Martinez Center for Integrative Healing opened its doors. It was everything Elena had dreamed of. A place where anyone could receive care regardless of their ability to pay, where traditional remedies were respected alongside modern treatments, where healers like her grandmother were honored instead of dismissed. Richard Wellington attended the opening ceremony. He stood beside his son, watching the crowd of patients and families streaming through the doors. "Your mother would be proud," Richard said quietly. Marcus looked at his father. Their relationship was still complicated, still healing, but something had shifted between them. "I think she would be too," Marcus agreed. Richard turned to Elena. "And Rosa. She would be very proud of her granddaughter." Elena felt tears prick her eyes. "I hope so. I know so." Richard did something unexpected. He pulled Elena into a hug. "Thank you for saving my son, for showing this family what really matters." Elena hugged him back. "Thank you for giving me a chance, even when you didn't trust me. I was a fool. I almost let my fear destroy the best thing that ever happened to Marcus." They pulled apart. Elena saw tears in Richard's eyes, something she never thought she would witness. "I'm going to be a better man," Richard said. "I promise you that." "I believe you." That night, Marcus and Elena stood on the rooftop of the center, looking out at the city lights. "1 year ago I was dying," Marcus said softly. "I had given up on life. I couldn't see any future worth living for." Elena leaned against his shoulder. "And now I wake up every day grateful. For my health, for my family, for you." He turned to face her. "Especially for you. I almost let you go, you know. That first day at the hospital, when your father had me thrown out. I almost gave up. What made you come back?" My grandmother's voice, in my head, telling me that some things are worth fighting for. Elena smiled through tears. "You were worth fighting for Marcus." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Elena's breath caught. "I've been carrying this for weeks," Marcus said, waiting for the right moment. He opened the box. Inside was a ring. Simple, beautiful. A single diamond surrounded by small emeralds. "The emeralds were my mother's favorite," Marcus explained. "She said they reminded her of new growth, new beginnings." Elena couldn't speak. Her heart was too full. "Elena Maria Martinez." Marcus dropped to one knee. "You saved my life. Not just physically, but spiritually. You showed me what courage looks like, what love looks like, what a life worth living looks like." Tears streamed down Elena's face. "Will you marry me?" Elena didn't hesitate. "Yes." Marcus slid the ring onto her finger. Then he stood and kissed her deeply, passionately, with all the love he had never known he was capable of feeling. When they finally pulled apart, Elena was laughing through her tears. "My grandmother would have loved this moment," she said. "I think she's watching." Marcus wrapped his arms around her. "I think she's been watching over us this whole time." Elena looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there, Rosa Martinez was smiling. "Thank you, Abuela," Elena whispered, "for teaching me that love is the strongest medicine, for showing me that miracles are real." A warm breeze swept across the rooftop. It felt like an embrace, like a blessing, like a grandmother saying goodbye. 1 year later, Elena gave birth to a daughter. They named her Rosa Catherine Wellington, after the two women who had made their love story possible. The grandmother who had taught Elena to heal. The mother who had shown Marcus what love looked like. As Elena held her daughter for the first time, Marcus sat beside her, tears streaming down his face. "She's perfect," he breathed. "She's a miracle." Elena looked up at her husband. "Just like us." Richard Wellington stood in the doorway watching his granddaughter with wonder in his eyes. "She looks like Catherine," he said softly. She has Elena's strength, Marcus replied. I can already tell. Natasha Kozlov visited the next day. Victoria had helped her mother rebuild her life after everything came out. They were working on their relationship slowly, carefully, the way broken things must be repaired. A new generation, Natasha said, gazing at the baby. A chance to do things differently. That's all any of us can hope for, Elena replied. Victoria sent flowers but didn't come in person. Some wounds were still too fresh, some distances too great to bridge. But she was trying, they all were. That night Elena sat alone with her daughter in the nursery. I'm going to tell you stories, she whispered to baby Rosa, about your great-grandmother, about the remedies she made, about the lives she saved. Rosa cooed softly. I'm going to teach you everything she taught me. About healing, about courage, about the power of love to overcome anything. The baby's tiny hand wrapped around Elena's finger. And when you're old enough, I'm going to tell you about the day I met your father. The day I walked into a hospital with nothing but a bottle of strange liquid and a grandmother's blessing. Elena kissed her daughter's forehead. I'm going to tell you about the day love saved us both. In the corner of the nursery, unseen by human eyes, two spirits watched. Rosa Martinez smiled at Catherine Wellington. Our children found each other, Rosa said. They did. Catherine's eyes glowed with joy. Against all odds. Because of love. Because of you. Catherine took Rosa's hand. You taught Elena well. And you raised a son worth saving. They watched as Elena began to sing a soft lullaby. The same song Rosa had sung to Elena when she was small. The same song that would now be passed to a new generation. It's time for us to go, Rosa said gently. I know. Catherine looked one last time at her son, at his wife, at the granddaughter she would never hold. But I'll always be watching. So will I. The two spirits faded into light. And in the nursery, Elena felt a warmth settle over her. A peace she couldn't explain. She knew somehow that everything was exactly as it should be. Her grandmother's legacy would live on. Her daughter would know the stories. And the strange liquid that had once saved a billionaire's dying son had become something far more powerful. It had become the foundation of a family built on love, truth, and the unshakable belief that miracles happen to those brave enough to fight for them. Elena held her daughter close and smiled. This was her happy ending. This was her beginning. And nothing would ever take it away.